Hey guys, what's up and what's going on? Welcome back to Baseballery, the podcast, and this is episode 3, the Mookie Betts trade. So last week's episode, there was a lot to talk about, a lot of scandals and a lot of crazy negative news, but this is a different type of news for this week's episode, although the trade happened while I was recording episode 2 and is now kind of 2 weeks late. This episode has been in the making for weeks, so I'm finally releasing it, and yeah. The Mookie Betts trade. I honestly have a mouthful to say about the whole trade, just about how it went, what's going on. But before I talk about the trade and my opinions, what about the trade itself? What happened? Just in case you missed it, what happened was that Mookie Betts, David Price were traded to the Dodgers. Like, this trade is a huge deal as a whole. I mean, the Dodgers, which have been a consistent playoff team, a team that's consistently been making it to the playoffs, even had World Series appearances twice in the last 3 years. They're a really solid team, and they just got even more solid. They now have a former Cy Young pitcher in David Price, and they have a former MVP in Mookie Betts. Mookie Betts was the 2018 MVP. He helped win the 2018 World Series with the Red Sox, along with David Price. Both of them were World Series champions, ironically against the Dodgers. But this is a big trade, and what's even crazy was that the trade actually fell apart at first. Let me explain. So just in case you missed or didn't know, the trade initially was, it fell apart, and there was a lot going on. I remember seeing Ken Rosenthal of The Athletic on Twitter report it initially, and it was crazy. I didn't expect that at all, out of nowhere. The initial trade that happened was that Mookie Betts, David Price, and cash, those would be going to the Dodgers. The Red Sox would get Alex Verdugo from the Dodgers and Brusdar Graterol from the Twins. The Twins were the third team involved in this trade. And the Twins would get Kenta Maeda from the Dodgers. It was a pretty even out trade as a whole, but due to some medical issues, the trade fell apart. And what I really liked about this initial trade the most was the fact that the Dodgers, in a separate trade, would have sent Jock Peterson and Ross Stripling to the Angels, my AL team. Now, I've been a fan of Jock Peterson despite him being on the Dodgers. I've always liked the guy, really good hitter, a great slugger, and I mean, the Angels need pitching, and Ross Stripling was amazing for this. I was super excited, but when the trade fell apart, the initial trade with the Dodgers and the Red Sox fell apart, so did this trade. Eventually, because it was taking so long, the Angels pulled out of the trade, and I was just really mad about that. Like, we missed out on an opportunity to make our lineup a lot better, and we lost a really good starting pitcher, which is what this team desperately needed. And, we really screwed ourselves over. But anyway, the trade with the Dodgers, the Red Sox, and the Twins ended up happening, and the final results are that the Dodgers would receive Mookie Betts, David Price, cash, all from the Red Sox, and additionally, they would receive Brusdar Graterol, who was initially going to the Red Sox, outfielder Luke Raley, and a draft pick from the Twins. The Red Sox would receive Alex Verdugo, Jeter Downs, and Connor Wong from the Dodgers. And the Twins would get Kenta Maeda and a catcher named Camargo and cash from the Dodgers. So that trade was a mouthful. I mean, there was a lot that went on, a lot of prospects going from one place to another. Things like that happen with this sort of trade. But it was also unique as a whole. I mean, we don't really see players as good as Mookie Betts getting traded in the MLB. I mean, in other sports like the NFL and the NBA, you see superstars getting traded all the time. Like, they're blockbusters, yeah, but they're pretty normal. This trade was different. I mean, baseball players, they typically don't leave teams. Like, you see, like Mike Trout, he stays with the Angels. You'll see multiple players staying with their teams instead of going to some other team, unless they get washed up and then they trade. But to trade someone like Mookie Betts, who's still in his prime, was really unique. And what also shocked me was what the Red Sox traded for him. I mean, they clearly didn't get enough for Mookie Betts by some accords. I mean, yeah, sure, they got Alex Verdugo, who's a really good prospect, but also Alex Verdugo has, health problems, he has back issues and whatnot. The Red Sox also acquired Jeter Downs, who was 7th overall pick in the 2017 MLB amateur draft. But then he was traded to the Dodgers in that whole trade with Yasiel Puig, Alex Wood, and Matt Kemp. So they traded those 3 players and in return got a prospect who they were able to return for Mookie Betts. So, I mean, just credit to the Dodgers. They've been in multiple huge trades in the past, like with Andrew Friedman, and they've got a lot of good stars and players with returns that are not really that high. As for the Red Sox, I mean, the Red Sox, they got some benefit from the trade. They were able to get, release some of that salary. This trade was mostly a salary dump as well as, a major blockbuster. But it was a salary dump for the Red Sox to clear out some cap space, which they did. But still, I don't think the Red Sox did very well with this trade. They should have gotten more from this trade. I mean, Alex Verdugo is good, Jeter Downs, and the other prospects, but still, I don't think the Red Sox did enough to give up Mookie Betts, like one of the best players in baseball right now. I mean, when you look at the Dodgers already, pre-Mookie Betts, they're already pretty stacked. They have Cody Bellinger, Kike Hernandez, Jock Peterson. They have a lot of great players. Not to mention the pitching with Clayton Kershaw, one of this generation's, said to be this generation's greatest pitcher, except for the playoffs. But, they have a lot of good, they have a lot of talent already. And on top of that, but with Cody Bellinger, the current NL MVP, they've gotten a former AL MVP and a former Cy Young. The Dodgers are a really stacked team. And this puts the rest of the National League at a very bad position. I mean, just look at it from the National League's perspective. Like the whole National League, you have the Cardinals, you have the Braves, you have the Nationals. You have many teams that are fighting, to win the championship, good championship contenders, good teams in the playoffs. And the Dodgers just put their foot in and they're bullying the league. Now they're saying, no, we're going to win the World Series this year. And the Dodgers have already been a consistent playoff team beforehand since they've won, I think, 7 division titles in a row already. And they've just been, steamrolling their way into the playoffs. And sometimes they choke off their win the leads and lose games. And other times they make it to the World Series and they choke. So I think this is the year that they're finally going to do it all. They're going to finish the thing that they've been doing for many years now. They're going to win the World Series this year. I mean, I have them at favorites. Just that team has so much talent across the board. they have two of baseball's greatest players on the same lineup. Like, this is really deadly. So that aside, I have multiple perspectives of this whole trade, the whole situation. As you know, I'm not a one-team fan, I'm a two-team fan. I'm a fan of both the Los Angeles Angels and the San Francisco Giants. So I'm going to start off with my perspective of being an LA Angels fan. For one, I'm sort of on the fence with this trade from the perspective of being an LA Angels fan. Like, me personally, I always love a good rivalry. I always enjoy it when there's two teams and they're both fighting very well. And while the Angels have been, I guess you could say, the little brother of the rivalry, the ones that always get beat up, I mean, the Angels, they still do pretty well against the Dodgers. Don't sleep on them. They do pretty well. Multiple times. And the Angels have Mike Trout. They signed Anthony Rendon in free agency. They have Shohei Ohtani, who's going to be able to pitch. And overall, this is going to be these are going to be some really fun games to watch. Dodgers versus Angels. And it's going to revolutionize the Southern California baseball rivalry as a whole. You know, Angels versus Dodgers, the Freeway Series. It's going to be a lot more fun to watch. Mike Trout not only facing Cody Bellinger, but Mookie Betts, you know, along with Anthony Rendon. It's going to be a heated game. These are going to be some heated games. It's going to be really fun to watch. At the same time, though, you know, I don't like the Dodgers. Being an Angels and Giants fan, I don't like the Dodgers. So, you know, one of my least favorite teams, I'm going to be real. One of my least favorite teams is becoming a powerhouse, you know. It's any sports fan's worst nightmare. But I'm also excited to see what this does for baseball. That being said, my perspective as a Giants fan, yeah, this is not great for us Giants fans. I mean, the Giants are at a unideal position right now. Not only are they knee-deep in starting a rebuild, they are trying to get the prospects all together, they're letting go of their former stars, the ones that are staying, you know, fixing the mistakes that the former management had done. All of this going on, it's not really easy. There's a lot of tension in the fan base as a whole. And now just to see that your least favorite team, your biggest rival, is now the World Series champion favorite. Like, many people, like, it's known that they're going to win, no matter how much you want to deny it. Like, it's, a very good chance of it happening. And, you know, just to see that, and being a Giants fan, it's pretty tough for Giants fans. Like, you know, it sucks being knee-deep in a rebuild and watching your least favorite team be like a World Series powerhouse. I mean, we kind of saw that with 2017. The Giants were really bad in 2017 when the Dodgers made it to the World Series, and they were like a World Series favorite too. And we all know what happened, though. It's still like 2020 is going to be pretty hard for Giants fans, I know that. In fact, I interviewed my friend Michael Marowelli, a huge Giants fan, and I wanted to get his perspective on the trade. So, yeah, here's the interview, and this is what he had to say. Alright, so for my first question, how will your team be affected by the Mookie Betts trade?
Okay, well, as a Giants fan, since we're division rivals with the Dodgers, it's really going to affect us whenever we play each other because of how good of a player Mookie Betts can be. He's just going to tear up. He has the ability to tear up any team that he wants if he tries hard enough. So I'm not looking forward to facing him.
Okay, so we talked about the perspectives of rival teams of the Dodgers, but what about the Dodgers themselves? Now, from a completely unbiased perspective, from a baseball fan's perspective per se, I'm actually really excited and happy for the Dodgers that they pulled this off. I mean, the fans are in a deep, they're in a huge emotional state of anger and sadness, as I mentioned in episode 2, losing a World Series, 2 World Series in a row, playoff heartbreak after playoff heartbreak, and then learning that a World Series championship that you could have won ended up being a loss due to cheating and, the game being exploited, and it really, sucks. And now to see that your team turns around and acquires a player who is going to revolutionize, completely make your team a lot stronger, a bully and a powerhouse. I think that's really great for Dodger fans as a whole. They are really excited, and to be honest, while from a non-biased perspective, I think they deserve it. Even from my perspectives of both teams, I think they deserve it. I kind of felt bad for them when they got cheated out of a World Series. It sucks when, you lose a championship. I've experienced that multiple times in my life, and to learn that you were cheated out of it just sucks a lot more. So I'm honestly really happy for Dodger fans, but I also interviewed a Dodgers fan. Here's Ethan Barragan, a DVC senior, and this is what he had to say about the trade.
I believe that the Dodgers are my team, by the way, from Los Angeles, born and raised.
Angels are better.
Blue. Basically, so the Mookie Betts trades is definitely a win for the Dodgers. I believe that him and David Price are definitely going to benefit the Dodgers. David Price more so for the starting rotation. However, Mookie Betts is definitely going to solidify the outfield. The Dodgers have one of the strongest defensive outfields in all of major leagues, and so I believe that this is only going to strengthen our ball control and making sure that nothing drops in the outfield.
Where were you when the trade took place? So, when the trade took place, when it fell apart, and then when it took place, solidified?
I was with all my cousins. We were just hanging out. We were spending time, and I know a few of us are on, MLB The App and ESPN, and so we were kind of getting those live updates, Yeah, we were definitely getting those updates, talking about the Astros cheating, sign stealing scandal, and kind of everything going around baseball. And so we were just on the topic, and so that came up, and it seemed final, and we were really happy with the outcome.
And now, of course, for the final part of this episode, the Red Sox. What about the Red Sox? So I briefly talked about the Red Sox as in how the team was affected. But what about the fans? How are the fans affected by this trade per se? And personally, unpopular opinion, but I actually respect the Red Sox. I like the Red Sox a lot. And, they're a good team. And Mookie Betts was one of my favorite players on the Red Sox. He was my favorite Red Sox, actually. And, to see him go to the Dodgers was really weird. And, it really sucked, for the Red Sox. Their fans, just when you have that player that you love to watch, you love to see, and now he's gone and he's on a different team. That really must suck, to be honest. It really, it's really hard. Me as an Angel fan, just the thought of Mike Trout leaving the franchise was really horrible. It's Mike Trout is a player who I love to watch, love to see. I own multiple jerseys. And, just to hear any rumor was just too It was no, I can't do this. I don't want to hear this at all. And to actually have that player leave your team really sucks. So, I interviewed a Red Sox fan, Scott Felt, a junior at DVC, and I wanted to get the Red Sox fans' perspective on the trade. And this is what he had to say.
He has to replace 30 home runs and at least 90 RBIs, which is very hard. Which is a hard thing to do, especially since JD Martinez had a down season last season and Benintendi. It also is very hard to replace his glove in right field because I know we have Gold Glove contenders in lefty and center, but he was that perennial right fielder. And Verdugo will be good, but he just hasn't had the opportunity to prove himself. He has been the Dodgers, but he hasn't really done anything in the time that he's proven, except he's had flashes, which is why the Dodgers haven't traded him away sooner, if that makes sense. And, yeah.
Alright. Second question was, what was your reaction when the trade first fell apart?
When it first fell apart, I was happy when it first fell apart. And sad at the same time because I want them to get under the luxury cap. Or I want them to get under cap, but I hate the place where they traded him to. I'd much rather him go anywhere else, even Houston, except the Dodgers.
I agree. So yeah, to conclude, this offseason's been crazy. We've seen a lot of stuff going on. We've seen scandal happening. We've seen a huge blockbuster trade that sent a superstar and a good pitcher to an already stacked team. And we've also seen a lot of other signings as well. But yeah, that basically makes up for this episode. Next episode, I'll be talking about free agency and pitchers in specific who've been paid a lot of money. But yeah, thanks for tuning in this time, and make sure to subscribe and like this video, and stay tuned in for the next podcast. But thank you guys for listening again, and I'll see you later.